somebody join us? Maybe that's still one of our existing ones. Okay, well, as people hop on, I'll just kind of make little reminders to put your phones on mute, but we'll go ahead and get started. So yeah, you can get button happy right now if you want, Jordan. Okay, so welcome everyone. We're glad to have you on the call tonight. We have representatives from Singular Humanitarian and Choice Humanitarian with us. And my name, I don't know if you can see my face, most of you guys are calling in, but I'm Alicia Christensen, and I am the Expedition Director for Singular Humanitarian. So some of the emails or different communication you've heard from me, unfortunately you won't see me on this trip, but you'll see all of the others on this call. But I just wanted to welcome you. Thank you for coming or making tonight a priority. We will record this so you can review it, send it out, whatever you need to do to make sure you have all the information. But anyone that is not on mute already, if you could just mute your phone so it could be a nice clear presentation for everyone else, that would be great. So if you are following along, I have my screen shared just to kind of go through the agenda. First, we're going to do our personal introductions. We'll go over Choice Humanitarian, their model of development, and how the projects work. Then we'll look a little bit more specifically at the expedition, the itinerary, the workshops that we'll be completing in country, and then we'll talk about the experience and how to make it an optimal one for us and for the villagers that we're going to serve. And then just a couple of resources at the end, kind of next steps and how to prepare, packing lists. And then we'll end with some Q&A. So first off, we're going to introduce you to the team. We've got Jennifer McCullough, who's one of our junior leads on the expedition. We'll have her introduce herself. And then we'll have Eric Chang, who's the expedition leader from Singular Humanitarian, introduce himself. And then Jordan will kind of kick us off with the rest of the slides, and he is the expedition leader and choice representative. He's also the expedition director. Many titles there with Choice. So yeah, go ahead and tell us about yourself, Jen.
Thanks. So I'm Jen, and this will be my first expedition as a junior lead, so that's exciting for me. I've been on 3 expeditions previously. I went to Kenya, I've been to Guatemala, and I've been to Nepal. Just last year I went to Nepal. I'm also the registrar for Singular Humanitarian, well, one of the registrars with Cami, and so I'm a diehard Singular Humanitarian lover.
Thanks, Jan. That's awesome. So my name is Eric. I'm excited to be the expedition leader for Singular Humanitarian for the Peru expedition. I have been on, Guatemala was my first, then Mexico, then I just got back from Nepal back in Thanksgiving, and now I get the opportunity to lead Peru. And I love the organization. I love what we do at Singular Humanitarian. I love Choice. And you'll talk more about, as Jordan talked about, how we partner up the 2 organizations to work together in serving people and use our talents to, go, especially all of us are singles. We have the opportunities, the extra resources and time to share our talents, share our time, and mostly just to give and serve and create that bond between each other. The friendships that we have formed on these expeditions are phenomenal. Jan and I, we've been on, that's 2, I think, right? We've been on Guatemala and Nepal together.
And I was in Mexico with you.
And some of the expeditioners that's coming with us to Peru, I've been with you guys with the previous expeditions as well. So it's great. I love the friendship that we have formed. And just before we continue on to have Jordan introduce himself, I just want to say thank you for you guys to sacrifice taking the time, the resources, the funds that you put into to make this happen, because this is great. We love to have this opportunity, especially this time for Peru. They're needing so much help to be there for them. Jordan. Did we lose him?
Hey, Jordan, you're on mute.
I am on mute, though.
There you go.
That's user error. It's great to meet you all. I'm thrilled to be here. I've worn a few hats over the years with Choice. I've been a part of the Choice community for over 10 years. as an expedition leader, I've led trips to nearly all of our countries dozens of times, and including Peru. But this will be my first opportunity to be on an expedition with SHe and the Singular Humanitarian Group. I've had a long and very rewarding time on behalf of CHOICE working with the Singular Humanitarian community, and you have all been a really integral part of CHOICE's history over the last 8 to 10 years. And so I look forward to the chance to take some of the experiences that you all kind of co-create as part of the SHe experience in country, and you know, learn from that and also apply a lot of that to some of our broader trips. So at CHOICE, I've been an expedition leader for a long time, also have managed our expedition program, and currently manage all of the ways that corporations and people can have an impact with some of the work we do at CHOICE. And so lots to discuss while we're in country, but today, you know, we'll dive into some of the specifics on Peru, which I'm really excited about. So if we kind of click on to the next one. Alicia?
Right now I have it showing in-country team. Can you
Perfect.
see that?
Yeah, we just got it. I at least did. Wonderful. Thank you. So by means of introduction, you've obviously met the three of us who will be your leadership team. I just realized that I need to plug my computer in. So hang on here as we multitask. But one of the things that you're going to find on the expedition is leaders are a big part of the experience, but the entire experience is really only made possible because of our in-country team. And so I put their names and faces up here as an example, not so that you worry about kind of memorizing who they are, but so that you understand every CHOICE expedition plugs into boots on the ground who are in charge of a few things: logistics, food, security, transportation, housing, and also all of the components surrounding the preparation that goes into an expedition, as well as the before and after preparation that goes into working with communities on what is sustainable development. I've spent almost a month working and living day to day with this team, particularly in Peru. And they're some of the most genuine, amazing people, extremely knowledgeable. And so they're going to be a really big part of the CHOICE experience. So you'll get a chance to meet them, but I'm excited for you all to even just right now start to realize, okay, you're going to meet some experts in their field, and we're all going to be really supported by them as we embark into this process. So if we go on to the next slide, just a high-level overview of CHOICE Humanitarian as a development organization. Are you guys, okay, wonderful. And you can kind of just click through these a little bit, Alicia. So CHOICE has been around for over 35 years, and our approach to development is the same in all of our countries. And we operate in 7 countries. And in each of those countries, we have the same infrastructure in place. So you already met the in-country team in Peru, but in all of our countries, first and foremost, we have an in-country team that are local and native to the area. And Alicia, you can kind of just click, yep, through these. And what they're doing is in all of our countries, they're working with anywhere from 10 to 30, and in some instances, for example, Nepal, they're working with upwards of 1,000 communities at a given point. And they're helping organize and mobilize community leaders so that communities can kind of design their own path out of poverty. And so these communities are going through a process with our teams. Our teams are helping facilitate the needs and the community listening for what communities themselves identify as priorities. And then they're helping strengthen community leadership and capacity. And then our teams help manage and organize communities around a process to really plan how they want to execute those needs. And that execution looks like projects or programs. And then, of course, there's a really important part at the end of that process where communities with our teams are really learning what went well, evaluating their successes, celebrating those successes, and then continuing on in that process. And so programs that communities identify and manage are in these 5 core areas. And in our specific expedition, we'll be working on both health, education, environment, and we're going to be touching a few initiatives that get into these programs. But with that infrastructure in place of CHOICE working with, a handful of communities at any given point, it's important to note that most communities we work with will never see an expedition, and that progress in communities does not depend exclusively on expeditions. Rather, expeditions plug into this program that communities are running at a key point in time for some communities that is about executing and accelerating some of the project work that they are carrying on, and then having that intercultural exchange that happens when all of us come from somewhere very different, base out in a rural setting on a community's terms and in a sustainable and appropriate way to learn from them, support them, and encourage them as they take on their own community development. And so the result of an exchange like this, in a model like this, leaves a community that's a lot more capable, the community that feels empowered, not dependent. And it also creates a more in touch and sustainable project because a community's really designed it from start to finish according to their needs. And so that's how CHOICE approaches development, and that's how expeditions fit into that. So today, we're going to talk a little bit about our specific community, and we'll learn a lot more about how this model is applied and how we've learned to approach it in this way when we're in country. But it's always important to note that you guys are plugging into something that's been in motion long before we show up and will continue on in a supported way long after we leave. And for us, that's what makes these experiences really sustainable. So with that, I'll kind of tee it off to Eric to maybe talk what makes an expedition different than any other type of typical travel.
Thank you, Jordan. And just to kind of echo what Jordan is saying about the CHOICE model, this is why I think it's so important, and why personally I love so much about what we do, is we go there, we work with the locals, we get to partner with them to work side by side. So with that in mind, there's a lot of interesting things will happen if this is your first expedition, and there's a lot of things that it's within our control, such as the trip itinerary, our team, the food that we're going to have. The food's always awesome on the expeditions. Some of the projects that we're going to be working on that we already know that in advance, and all the other stuff, as far as where we're going to stay, or some of the general things that we need to think about and plan. The key thing to remember is we are going to a country that is a developing country. There's still a lot of unknowns, and just by the nature of the environment, travel delays is going to happen. The dynamic within the village, like Jordan was saying, there's no control over that, because a lot of times this will be the first time seeing foreigners coming in to help them or to work with them. And your personal health, that could be affected during, traveling to a new place that you're not used to, or the project itself, the pace, what we're trying to do. So on and so forth. So the key thing to remember, we love for you to remember, is just to make sure you're flexible and have that mentality, and just try to go with the flow and enjoy the experience being there. Right? Enjoy the journey is one of the things that I think a lot of us struggle with. As far as North Americans, that's kind of how I feel, until we get to these expeditions and actually learn how to take things just not so seriously, and how to relax, and how to just go with the flow and let things happen, and let the course materialize for us. So that's just something to keep in mind as we do that, when we do go on expeditions, when we get there, and just be patient with some of the things, because it's going to be different, and that's going to guaranteed. And if you can have that flexibility mindset, you have a great experience on the expedition. And I'll turn this back to Jordan to talk about the area.
Yeah, that's great. And no matter how many expeditions you might go on, what makes the experience irreplicable and completely unique are those unknown factors. And so today we're going to cover all the stuff we do know, and our job as leaders is to ensure that as and when new factors evolve as part of the experience, that collectively as a group, you all have the information necessary to understand those changes, and to have a clear understanding of our options as a group when changes come up, and that we have clear solutions to those. That's our job as leaders, right? Is to really help make sure that information and that path forward is clear. Your job as participants is to kind of take off the participant hat of being a passive participant in that experience, and to put on a very active co-creator, collaborator mentality that becomes part of the solution to these dynamic opportunities that come up. And I say opportunities because they're not always problems. Some of the richest new things that develop are great experiences and activities that we never planned for. So a lot of open communication will be taking place with us starting now, including through every morning. And you'll get tired of hearing Eric, Jennifer, and I rally the troops for a quick chat, but we do that to make sure we navigate that experience well together. So at a high level, I just want to talk a little bit about where we're going. You've probably seen this, but for those just doing the expedition, we'll be in northern Peru, and we'll be in an area, which I'm going to talk about in a moment, that's been experiencing some really unique and intense and devastating floods in northern Peru, coming out of the highlands in Ecuador and the Altiplano. So you can see Piura here, and if we go to the next slide, you'll have a little bit more granular picture of where that is. And so you can see for those flying in, we fly into Lima first. We then take that quick 45-minute to an hour flight up to Piura. And if we go to the next slide, just put this up here for a minute to give you guys some context. We will be, the CHOICE team bases out of Piura, and we work almost in this entire area that you see on the map. This specific expedition will be in a district and in a community that's included in what's called La Arena. And so it's towards the coast, which is a little different than we initially anticipated. Typically, we were going to be a little further in the highlands, and so there's some real benefits. Every expedition, as I mentioned, has changes, and those changes have challenges and benefits. And one of the benefits is that we will be in an area that's a little bit warmer, that's a little bit less travel time, and one of the reasons is because we're going to be in an area that's been impacted quite a bit by some of the recent flooding. And it's a newer area that CHOICE has been in for about 6 months. And so the community is really active and interested and engaged right now. And so it's a combination of context, timing, and community preparation. So just one thing to note here is that it should be warmer. You'll see the temperatures down at the bottom of the screen. We're high 80s, going to be some humidity there. And towards the end of the night, we're going to be in the 70s, which is awesome. So a couple factors as part of that. Mosquitoes will be prevalent, particularly because we've been dealing with some flood, some recent flooding. And so we'll talk more specifically, but prepare for warmer days, humid days, and cooler nights. So moving on to the next slide. And Jennifer, did you want to jump in, or want me to capture this, or?
I'm happy either way.
Okay. We've got a large group that's going on the Machu Picchu tour. Oh, wonderful. We're getting some, I wish I was going to Everest Base Camp now. All of a sudden. Sorry. Little pump fake there. So we've got, for those who are going, a great option. We've got about 5 more days to kind of let us know if this is something you'd like to do. But for those who are going, it's one of the most packed and diverse 4 days you can probably experience, where if you go to the next slide, we'll be spending some initial time arriving into Cusco in the morning, probably by noon, and then we'll be there that whole night. The next day, we'll be heading in through the Sacred Valley on train. This is literally train, bus, and automobile, as we explore a couple ruins en route to what is Aguas Calientes, an amazing town at the base of hot springs that is actually in a lower temperate kind of jungle environment. You'll see that off to the bottom left. and we'll spend the night there. We'll have a really early morning, kind of 5 a.m. getting up to Cusco, to Machu Picchu, where we'll spend a whole morning into the early afternoon exploring the sites. We'll have some options for free time exploring as well as some hikes that can take between an hour to 2 hours. And then we'll be coming back that whole night on train in the afternoon, spending kind of a farewell night in Cusco, and then having Saturday to spend in Cusco, exploring a little bit more. Cusco, there's a lot to see. And so we'll be together as a group. We've got a wonderful tour provider in country who's going to be a part of that experience. Eric, I believe, is going to be joining the group as well. And so the rest of you, along with myself, we'll be meeting up collectively together on Saturday in the evening on that next day. And Jennifer, I'll let you kind of take it from here.
Yeah, definitely. So that's whenever our week of awesome begins. So from that point, we'll be traveling up to Piura, and that's where the fun begins. Sunday, we'll attend church in the morning, and then we will, that's always a really neat experience, to experience the culture or the church in a different culture, to sing the songs in their language and get to know the people a little bit better. That's always been super rewarding. Then the projects begin. We'll travel to the town that will be, the village where we will be providing service. And from there, we will, I think we'll begin our projects. Is that correct, Jordan?
Yeah. And in a minute, we'll kind of talk a little bit about what housing, projects, village, what those days look like while we're in community. But yeah, it's all going to kick off Monday morning.
Perfect. Great.
Jen?
Yeah, please.
Can I mention a few things? So yeah, for during the week of awesome, just so we have this information out there. When we first get there, we'll have an orientation on Saturday. We just need to make sure people arrive before that. And then the following, the next Sunday or the coming Sunday, we'll have optional LDS services at a local congregation. So that's going to be really great to have some intercultural exchanges right there as well. And that's something I personally always look forward to as I travel. And then during the week of awesome, we will have lots of different kind of games and activities to just get to know each other really well. And this is what makes the Singular Humanitarian Expedition really fun and awesome. And one last thing that we wanted to put this out there just so that people are aware and start thinking as we prepare for the expedition is the talent show that we're going to have. So we're trying to do the best we can to put a special presentation for our local Peruvian friends, because they're going through this tough time with their flood, and we're helping them with their flood relief. But it'd just be so great to have our show a little something to show us our appreciation and just have that another additional cultural exchanges that we can have with them. So I think that's going to be really fun and a great opportunity just to do something silly, something great. So if you have any talents, let us know. We do have the Facebook group that Alicia sent out in the email. You can put your comments in there, and we can definitely show you a little something. Thank you.
And for those of you like me who have to dig real deep to find talents, don't worry. No one's off the hook. Everyone will find something that adds value, and we will make sure that we collaboratively put together quite a show.
Yeah, I recommend planning something because I'm pretty good at roping people into doing things. So contact me, we'll figure something out. They will love it, and they'll also share their talents with us. So that will be extremely rewarding for us in return.
And yeah, maybe a couple other, items that Monday through Friday. In a minute, we're going to talk about what the specifics of those components look like. But it's a jam-packed week, and there's a lot of components that fit into that. And again, our job as leaders, we'll take every day in kind of 3 parts, where we'll be kind of having a breakfast and kick off with kind of the first afternoon plan. We'll reconvene around lunch. And then at dinner, we'll debrief as well. And throughout the day, we're going to be having not just work opportunities, but chances for structured workshops with the community, as well as structured learning between and amongst us as a group, where we invite community leaders, Choice and Country team to really explain and expound on certain things. So a lot of also time for just kind of open Q&A and discussion and dialogue. And then we'll head back to the community, back to Piura on Friday morning, which will give us kind of a Friday afternoon to reboot and refresh a little bit in Piura before people go their separate ways, depending on their flights on Saturday afternoon. One thing I will just note from that previous slide is it does say to, arrive by 5 p.m. on Saturday. We just want to reiterate that for those doing the tour, every time, every day, there's usually flights that vary on when they arrive. And so there's a group and there are some later arrival flights. The real only option is to arrive a little bit later. And so for those who do arrive earlier on Saturday, that's great. I'll be there. We'll be there. We'll pick each one of you up from the airport. For the group that arrives from the tour a little bit later, we will be able to schedule our kind of orientation dinner a little bit later to accommodate you. And yes, we're going to give you dirty looks and act like we're not that stoked on the big tour you just went on. But we'll all get over that and kick the group off, kind of together as a whole. And I'm joking, we'll be very excited to hear about it. And I love calling this the week of awesome. As a single person, I like to think that that's what my exes call the week that we dated before they break up with me. But I'm not sure if that's the case. But who knows? You never know. So going to the next slide here, just a context. I've mentioned a few things that are unique to our trip in Peru that have been evolving over the last few months. Is the flood. And so I would encourage you all, if you'd like to, and we'll share some resources in the expedition Facebook group as well as through email, but to just get up to speed on what's been happening. It's actually a really significant natural disaster that's been going on primarily in our project area. And as you can see, there's some statistics there. It is really difficult to get adequate and representative numbers on what's happening, but just for context, over 100,000 homes are completely gone, which is having huge impact on individual people who are being temporarily relocated. And we will see some of that, as well as a lot of families where entire communities are being called, unlivable now by the government. And you can see here, as it stands now, about 5,000 families, I should say, are being completely and permanently asked to relocate, which means there's a rebuilding effort that will be kicking off by the time we're there. And what it means now is that there's all of the challenges and opportunities that you would expect in natural disaster recovery, which is there's corruption, there's frustrations, there's a lot of hope, there's an amazing outpouring of relief, and we actually currently have some campaigns for those interested that is supporting some of that relief. But there's also all the complications that come from that, and our team is navigating them really well and being as resourceful as it can. And we as expeditioners are going to be plugging into that program, and luckily some of our existing project work is going to continue forward as planned, as well as dip into and support as much flood relief as we can. And that is happening every day. And so what that looks like by the time we're there is going to vary. I'll talk a little bit about that. But as a group, let's get up to speed on what some of these challenges are, because as I mentioned, this will be an opportunity to kind of witness firsthand what early stage kind of recovery and rebuilding looks like in this type of environment, which is not always the case. So moving on to the next slide. Just a note about the community. So this is a really eager community called Pampa de la Silva that's been working with CHOICE for a little over half a year now, and very motivated. It's a smaller community, as you can see, 500 people, 100 families, and we're going to be working on two projects. One is kind of the reconstruction and rebuilding of a 2-room primary school. that was initially forecast as part of a project for community members and is now a priority given the impact of the flood. And then we'll be doing a lot of flood support that is going to look different depending on what those needs are, from community cleaning to supporting a couple reconstruction activities outside of the school construction project. So it's a beautiful community that's a little bit more, it's in a large agricultural sector, I should say. And if you click to the next slide here, oh no, I'm sorry, it's not in there. But a lot of folks rely heavily on agriculture. And one of the things that we'll see, which is going to be really difficult, is not only have homes been destroyed, not only have people been displaced, but entire crops for entire years, or not entire years, for the entire year, possibly more, have really been obliterated. So a way of life has been really disrupted, and we're going to see what that looks like, which will be a chance to learn quite a bit. So with that, I'll hand it off to Jennifer and Eric to walk through, now once we're in the community, how are we eating, living, what does the day look like, and all of that.
Yeah, thank you, Jordan. So once we get into the village, this is some of the pictures you'll likely see and experience for living in the village. And this is really cool because you get to see, you know, again, right, how they live, and you get to experience that as well. In terms of living, in terms of eating, we'll be fed 3 meals a day, and the food will be amazing. That's just always been the case for expeditions. So that's something I look forward to. Likely we'll have some kind of local Peruvian cuisine shared with some other kind of meal plans that they have planned for us. So that's something to keep in mind as well, just to, when you start packing, you might want to pack some snacks and something that you want to bring with you, just in case that, you know, you want to have some chocolate or something that you remember that you get from home. In terms of living arrangement, this is pretty primitive. We'll likely stay in the community center. At this point, that's what we'll probably staying at. So it'll be a group sleeping arrangement situation. So make sure when you pack, you bring a sleeping bag. A sleeping pad will be nice as well, just so it gives you extra paddings to make it a little more comfortable. And anything else you need to enhance the experience while you're living in that sleeping quarter. Can go next slide. With that, I'll turn it to Jen.
Thanks, Eric. I just have to say, one of my favorite parts of these expeditions is living like the people. I, for some reason, fully embrace that. So I hope that's something that we can embrace. Showers are often rare and primitive, and it's okay because we all smell delicious together. So it's really great. And the food's always so yummy. We'll have several projects like Jordan mentioned. One of the projects that we'll be working on is Days for Girls. I'm not sure if you've heard of that group before, but it is a group that I've actually worked with here in the States in making sanitary, like reusable sanitary napkins out of cloth for women and girls in the village. We'll be bringing about 60 of those kits, and we'll be able to, it's kind of a 2-stage process. And while we're in the country, we will receive a training on kind of like a presentation on how they're going to present this to the villagers. I was able to participate in Days for Girls training in Nepal, and it was fascinating to watch the girls and the women just kind of take in this new information that we're all familiar with when it comes to feminine hygiene and just very basic women's health. And these are things that they are not familiar with. So it's super exciting for me, and it's really eye-opening for them and gives them lots of opportunities for their future. So I encourage you to look up their organization because we will have a great time working with them. And Jordan mentioned that he likes to have the men and the women go to that training, just the pre-training before we teach the villagers, so that we can all see what kind of information they're receiving. So that's really exciting. So we will do that. During that time, we'll also, one of my favorite things about the working portion of our projects with Singular Humanitarian and Choice Humanitarian is that we're never working alone. We always have the people around us working. And something awesome about Peru is we're going to be having some of the LDS youth from the area joining us in these initiatives and in working as we work on these buildings, building the school and helping with flood relief. So we'll be able to create that partnership with them. So that will be wonderful. And all the while we're working hard, there's always play involved. In Kenya, we would dance as we dug trenches. In Guatemala, we sang songs and we danced. Everywhere we go, we dance. So, so please make sure that you work on your dancing moves and we'll have a great time. We encourage you to bring some little things that you can share with them, little parts of our culture or things that we did when we were little, like little games, or they love bubbles, fingernail polish. I'm not sure if you guys have other ideas, but these kind of things have been super fun, and the children always love to play. So go back into your like childhood days and embrace that inner child, and you'll have a lot of fun time playing with the children there. It'll be great. Yeah.
Soccer balls, those are great too. Just anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, so guys and girls, anything that you can think of that will be fun to play with the kids. They seem to love that. That's one of the best experiences to be there.
Yeah, balls are actually really great because they love to play ball sports, but a lot of times they'll just improvise balls. So if you bring balls, sometimes it's tricky. Make sure if you bring balls that you also have a pump to get those pumped up, because they won't have a pump for those balls. So yeah, wonderful. Something else that's wonderful about our time in Peru will be what we learn from the people. The culture, I have never been to Peru, so I'm excited, but I love to learn about the culture. And since we'll be working side by side with the people, we will be learning directly from them. So I invite you to take advantage of that time that you have with them. Ask them questions. Be prepared with questions so that you'll know how to learn how they live. And just like us, they have goals and dreams and aspirations. So if you can connect on that extra level with them, it'll make your experience all that more fulfilling. And all the while that we're together, we will be celebrating. We'll celebrate at the beginning, we'll celebrate at the end, and then day by day, we can celebrate what we have accomplished as a team. The in-country staff is always so supportive and so much fun, and they'll be a great resource for us to help us learn the culture a lot more. So embrace that. I invite you to take little moments with the people. Don't be afraid to step aside or to like buddy up with someone and just get to know them a little bit better, because those are the relationships that will last and that will really make this a fulfilling experience for you personally.
Can I jump in just to talk about a little bit on the celebration too as well?
Yeah, please.
This is one thing I love about, again, the choice model. It's always looking for ways to engage, to celebrate the small things that each one of us have accomplished, the villagers have accomplished. And that's something that I think personally for me, and that I have gained in terms of insight about looking at the celebration that we all can have on this expedition. Like Jan was saying, when we're doing this, not just looking at what's happening with the villagers, right? Looking at internally within ourselves, what's happening each day, what kind of paradigm shift you're having, what kind of thinking you're going through, or we'll have struggles, trials that we have back home that were left behind, and let those thoughts integrate and internalize it into yourself to think about what you can do to take those home and celebrate the little things that you're celebrating with the villagers while you're there, because that is something that I think it's super significant when we go to these expeditions, and we're giving ourselves to them to help serve, but there's so much that they're actually giving back to us, and that's personally one of the biggest learning opportunities that I think we can have and gain by being there for that.
And also just add that we'll have a lot of informal and formal opportunities to learn with our in-country team, community leaders themselves, and amongst ourselves as a group. And some of those are going to be structured. And as the trip gets closer, we'll know what some of those time frames look like, meaning we might sit down before we get to work on a morning and learn a little bit more about how we work in a community or why Choice works the way it does, and invite some community members for open Q&A to do that. And so we will be really inclusive of the group to make sure we find the best times to do that and facilitate as much conversation and Q&A and learning as we can. There's nothing that's off topic as part of these experiences when it comes to discussing.
So these are some of the dynamic we'll be experiencing on the expeditions. Again, mainly just to look at the flexibility, within ourselves to enjoy the moment, right? So some of these things, that the pictures that capture the experiences, the games you're going to play with the kids, it could just be spontaneous. Like while you're working on helping cleaning, next thing you know, a bunch of kids showed up, and spend the time with them, because this is what they need, what they're looking for in life, and what they might not get, right? So I know that some of the best memories that we have on expeditions are the spontaneous moment that it just happened. One of the expeditions I remember people telling me was, they were in Guatemala and were just drenched in sweat and hard labor day, and all of a sudden it started raining and somebody started taking their shirt off, and then had an impromptu shower and just in the middle of the day, right? So it's those experiences that make the memories great. So look for those opportunities. Just say, hey, just go with the flow and just be flexible and have a great time. So these are 3 key elements to make this expedition a successful experience for you and for all of us, really. We talked a lot about flexibility, and that is so essential, just because things going to change, and I can almost guarantee you that it's 100%. Some of the stuff, it just happened, right? So having that flexibility is going to make the experience so much more better and so much more rewarding for all of us. Having a sense of humor is great, because sometimes people might say things without meaning anything. And my personal experience was when I went to Guatemala. I was the first Chinese person they ever met, right? For local villagers. So they were dropping names just because that's what they don't know what better to call me. So they just kept calling me Chinos. And it was getting to the point I was a little frustrated. It's like, okay, why are there so much attention just on me? And this is really uncomfortable. And somebody kind of mentioned that to me, said, hey, this is great for them just to interact with you. They probably never seen this before, right? Never seen a foreign Chinese person here. So I later on realized this is kind of fun. So I started joining with them later on, just laughing with them. I'll call myself names, just kind of interact with them. So that was great. Mindfulness, that's another thing, just to be aware of what's happening around you. And this is one of those things that, because all of us are experiencing things in country, and we all have our personal things that we're working through. So it could be somebody's, there's something happening with them. So if you can be mindful of what's going on through that person's life, and you can at the right time be able to extend your help to them, and whether it's local villagers or even just within our expedition team, right? That would really make the experience so rewarding. I'll turn this back to Jen to talk about the spiritual journey.
Thanks so much, Eric. I think the spiritual journey is, I think, one of the best parts of the whole expedition experience, because as a whole, everything comes together. The cultural awareness that we receive, the cultural exchange that will take place, the mindfulness as you're mindful and kind of like process what's actually happening. I think we become more grateful and more aware of the lives that we're living, and it becomes a very spiritual experience. I have had several spiritual experiences on these expeditions, and I know that there will be opportunities for you. So come prepared for that. I love this quote. A lot of you don't have your screen up, so I will read it to you. It's from Joseph Smith. It says, "A man filled with the love of God is not content with blessing his family alone, but ranges through the whole world, anxious to bless the whole human race." And that's what this is all about. We are here serving God's children. And no matter our color, no matter our living circumstances, there are brothers and sisters. And you will truly feel that when we are together. You will feel that bond with them. And it will perhaps become an emotional experience for you. And that's okay. It's enlightening. It is refreshing. Sometimes helps you feel alive after feeling like you perhaps haven't been alive for a long time. So I think it will breathe new life into each one of us. And that's our hope for you.
And so just to highlight a couple key rules, we'll talk more about these in country, that are important for CHOICE. As first and foremost, CHOICE is an international development organization. We are apolitical. While we do facilitate expeditions for groups with common faith, similarities and things like that, and singular humanitarian with kind of a rich LDS tradition. We want to be mindful about how that all translates into our experience in a community. So first and foremost, no individual gift giving. That means if we've got candy, if we've got bouncy balls, if we've got tennis balls, we simply don't distribute gifts to individual community members, regardless of what need we might observe or experience. How we do that is we are more than welcome and encouraged, in fact, to bring soccer balls, supplies, school supplies, flashcards, books, frisbees and volleyballs and things we might want to do to engage or create experiences and memories. And we might pull those out, play with them, bring them back at night. And at the end of the trip, we will gather everything we want to leave with that community, and we will likely leave it with the community leaders or with the school. And so there's a right way to give. Community members right now, particularly in light of flood response and relief, right? They're being confronted with a lot of stuff, and the dynamics that can be created when people have a real need, but there are expectations that a government might step in or that organizations might step in, and they're experiencing every day a lot of handouts and a lot of things with reason. And so that, no matter what, creates challenges. That component is not core to how CHOICE operates. We are a longer term, longer view development organization. There are definitely relief-oriented organizations, and we play a role where we can support that. But that means with our expeditions, we in no way, shape, or form want community members to associate their progress with individual handouts from folks who are from other countries. It's not their expectation, and we want to honor that by respecting the pride and ownership they do have of the projects. Any questions around that, we can all always discuss and explore what the best ways moving forward would look like. Now, no proselytizing. Obviously, as a group, you're all bringing together some commonalities and some similarities that have got you here in the first place. And so as a group, we're really able to support your search for exploring those together. So getting to church together and certainly having activities and discussions and reflections in a candid way about how that influences your faith and your traditions and your religion is very welcome amongst yourselves as a group. Now, where we want to be very mindful is about how we interact as a group between ourselves and obviously the community. And that means that we really want to keep the religious component to who we are together as a group, very private, and make sure that communities don't associate their support or advancement or the work they do with any particular religious organization. We want communities to feel safe, heard, and we want to focus on the commonalities, oftentimes not those things that can be divisive like politics or religion. And I would just throw that out, with politics and religion, those tend to be amongst a group, sometimes topics of conversation that don't unite us, but rather draw lines and create tensions. And so that we're just mindful as a group that we all have a lot of differences in perspective, opinion, and we want to create a safe space so that everyone feels safe, heard, welcome. And I know that's a really rich part of the SHe experience. And then promises is very similar to gifts. If we can't guarantee the fulfillment of a promise in coordination with us as CHOICE Humanitarian, while we're in the community, we don't make it. And that can sound simple, but can sometimes be a little more complicated all of a sudden as we, say, hey, I'll for sure add you on Facebook or I'll get you that photo, I'll email it to you or something like that. All of a sudden a simple promise becomes really compounded. And the best example I have of that is a family with such amazing intentions asked a participant, and this is common, to be, in fact, a godparent for one of their children, which is an amazing honor. And of course, they're going to say, oh my gosh, of course, why not? And what they didn't maybe fully understand is there's an expectation for the acceptance of being a godfather that brings with it certain responsibilities. And those responsibilities include annual Christmas gifts, and those responsibilities include annual birthday gifts. And there's an expectation that there might be support and encouragement for school later on. And so all of a sudden, what seems like a simple acceptance or a promise really turns into what could be a frustrating relationship that is ultimately unfulfilling and ultimately creating tension between expectations of an organization that, is not able to meet that. So, so those are 3 key rules, and we'll explore those when we get in country quite a bit. So moving on, I think we'll go to the next slide here. Yeah, and hand it over to Alicia.
Great, thank you. So for those of you that are following along on the PowerPoint, I'm going to stop sharing this slide and show you CHOICE Humanitarian's website, where you can access the expedition manual and the Peru appendix. And if you have not already, I would suggest that you visit both of those documents and really read through them. But let me go ahead and find this other, pop it up here. Can you, all right. I think we have it. Can you guys see the CHOICE Humanitarian page?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you just go to CHOICE Humanitarian, you can go to expeditions and expedition calendar. You can find the Peru expedition, have this this layout of Machu Picchu, our week in Piura, or from there, as well as all the other details that you need. So this is a great resource for anything you have left to accomplish with the expedition and planning. So down here we have trip resources. We have the application medical form, which hopefully you've already seen and turned those in. We have the trip itinerary, which kind of goes into detail as well. And then the expedition manual and the appendix. I'm going to click on the appendix here. And if we were to scroll through, you will see the country map, travel requirements, so some details about passport, making sure that you have a valid passport that will be good for another 6 months beyond the expedition. And then a visa if you plan on traveling anywhere besides Peru, that you know that you have to have certain requirements for that. And I would suggest bringing a copy of your passport and a copy of your itinerary, those kind of things, just so that you have extra documentation. And then if we scroll down, vaccines and immunizations, some questions that kind of come up are, do I need to get this type of immunization before I go there? It looks like we don't really have to get anything for Peru, but we would still encourage you to go, to the health department and maybe sit down, and if there's something that you feel like you want to have, or immunization that you haven't had already, then go ahead and get up to speed on that. But each area kind of recommends, they look at the map and they say, oh, we recommend this one or that one. So it's kind of up to you after that.
And I would love to just jump in here and strongly recommend that you go to a travel clinic or visit a doctor for a few reasons. One, to make sure you're up to speed with some of these strongly recommended basic vaccines for international travel. And 2, to be able to get prescribed a couple key prescriptions that are really important for every participant to have. CHOICE will have all the emergency response medical support that we need in the event of an emergency, and we've always got backup, but we rely on participants to come prepared with their necessary medications. Some of the medications that look like are antibiotics that are helpful for infections as well as diarrhea should that settle in. And we can't assume that CHOICE or someone else will have those for us when and if we need them. It's important that every participant come prepared. Now we can help you understand when to take that and look at your options, but we need everyone to come prepared with that. And so visiting that clinic will allow you to do that. So that's an important step to make sure you've got everything you need. Great,
thanks for adding that. And I think that's really important. If you are not healthy on the expedition, it changes your entire experience. So anything you can do to kind of prepare for that and to bring, even the comforts of home or your medications, that's critical. So we will take good care of you, but that makes a big difference. So if we were to scroll down on this webpage, it just goes through travel information, electricity, weather, food. We talked a little bit about that, but just read through everything so that you're very familiar. And then the last part of this appendix is the packing list. And it kind of goes through all the specifics of what you should pack. we also highlighted some of those things, but I wanted to also say that it's nice to have a clean pair of clothes that you can wear home after your long travels in the village and everything else. So just kind of be forward thinking about how to be more comfortable, what you'll need. But take a look at all of these things and make sure that you have them, or ask us questions if you think it's, you know, critical to this expedition or not. We're here to answer those questions for you. So yeah, there's that one. The other important document is, if we go back to this page, is the expedition manual. And this one's a little bit longer. So this one kind of gives you an overview of the choice model and the pretty much everything. So mental and physical preparation, travel and money. So it goes into greater detail than just the Peru specifics. So I would just make sure that you read through all of those and that you know exactly where to find these documents, so you can refer to them before you leave. With that, I wanted to make an announcement. So with this expedition, a lot of things have been changing what we're going to be doing when we get there, just in response to the flood. And we also have a pretty good group going, but it's a smaller group than we've had in the past. So what we want from you guys, we want you guys to kind of bond together and to make this experience really great. You're going to have wonderful opportunities to make strong bonds in a smaller group. But we only have about 12 women and 3 men at this point that are going on this trip, and we would like to see more people come. We would ultimately like to get 5 or 10 more people so it can be the optimal size group for your experience and also for the impact that we can have. So if there are any people that you know that are really interested in having this kind of experience or doing humanitarian work, we'd love to see them come. We're going to emphasize Spanish speakers as well as men, so we can kind of have what we feel like a singular humanitarian experience that is a positive one for everybody. So if you're even just wondering, oh, is this person involved, just be sure to invite them. We're still accepting people. We can still get a quick turnaround process and make it happen. And that is for Machu Picchu as well as Expedition. So we do have an incentive for you. If you do know of a guy that's thinking about coming on this trip, or one that you could potentially recruit, we will take $150 off of your expedition fee, and we will also give your recruit $150 off of theirs. So keep that in mind. Tell your friends, spread the word. If there's anything that we can do, you know, to reach out to these people, to give them this information, even this presentation, to kind of hopefully get people excited about what they're going to experience, we're happy to do that. And with that, I just want to say that you guys are going to have an incredible experience. And just like Jen was talking about, you know, this spiritual experience, this emotional experience, really, it can be replicated time and time again. We can go on these humanitarian expeditions, but it really is a personal experience and a different experience every single time that you go, but it's powerful. And I think the more invested you become before you go, getting involved and getting ready for the projects, as well as really kind of putting a check on yourself, maybe some of your triggers that you have, or some things that you might be sensitive to on expeditions, to really think about the purpose of why you're there and what you want to get out of it, but also what you want to give, because we will probably come away with more than we ever gave. That's always been my feeling, kind of walking away from an expedition. I'm like, I'll never be the same, and that's a really awesome thing, and it's also kind of a difficult thing. You'll transition back into real life with some new long-lasting friends, both there and here. So get excited for that. Get excited to meet Eric, Jen, Jordan, and just make these connections with each other, some of the best connections that you'll ever have. So with that, I would like to just open it up for some questions. If there's anything also from the leadership team, if you guys feel like we need to highlight anything else, but go ahead and take yourself off of mute if you have anything else.
One thing I'll just say is thank you. I'm thrilled you guys are here. I look forward to meeting you all. Spending time with folks in country is it's rare in life where we get to forge really deep, meaningful friendships in such a short period of time at this stage where some of us are, right? We just aren't exposed to these types of opportunities often, and expeditions are certainly one of those. So whether we know each other or not, we're definitely going to leave more than friends. We'll definitely have shared an experience that is very important for all of us. And there's my little girl right here intervening. But this isn't your only chance to ask questions, was the point I was going to make. We've got a Facebook group. We've got emails. Here, love, real quick. We've got all sorts of opportunities to help you guys out. And so don't feel like it's now or never. Phone call, email, we're all very accessible to help you all prepare, including for the time in Cusco, Machu Picchu. And that's that. Any questions?
If there's no questions, I have a packing suggestion that I really like.
Let's hear it.
Alicia mentioned, or Eric, Alicia, someone mentioned having a clean outfit, Alicia, for the flight home. I like to pack, it seems wasteful, but I save them for each trip. I like to use gallon baggies to put my clothes in because we're going to get dirty and nasty. And you'll want to keep the clean stuff separate from the dirty. Well, maybe you won't, but I do. So if you'd like to do that, that's a great option.
That's one of the best tip I would say on the packing list is to have the clean clothes and the zip-up bags. Those are so great.
Yeah.
I will just jump in and emphasize, just because we're talking about packing, some of you might be wondering what type of bag to bring or what you might need to buy or something like that. So we will not have any real needs to carry our luggage any more than we would in between a car and a hotel and a car and here. But we will be moving often, particularly those going on the tour. And so the type of bag I recommend is really kind of a duffel bag and sometimes they have duffel bags that have straps. And to me, that's really the best solution of a bag. It's not the only one you can use, but duffels tend to be a little bit easier to get in and out of, especially if you're using kind of vacuum sealed or kind of mesh individual packing bags, because you don't have to take everything out to find that one sock somewhere in the bottom. Whereas a backpacking backpack, oftentimes you'll have to, kind of remove everything vertically. And where we will be living out of that bag while we're in the community, accessibility can be key. Don't feel like you need to buy a bag for this trip. If you have wheeled luggage, you can definitely bring that because we won't have to move it so often. But those are some thoughts on packing. I do recommend about 3 types of shoes, a stiff, sturdier work boot that can get wet, that you can feel fine to get dirty with, a more comfortable tennis shoe for playing and after camp, and then kind of a sandal for showering and also camp time and things like that. And then otherwise, everything's really spelled out on the list. I would emphasize mosquito repellents, permethrin to rinse your clothes in. And then I do on this one in particular, because of the flooding, encourage everyone to bring, it's almost like a $14 mosquito net that you can get at any camping store or even Walmart or order online. That should be $14, $15. That is very basic, just to have as a backup to make sure that at night, while we will be generally protected, we'll be in a community center space, bugs will be a little more prevalent than normal.
Any other questions that you guys might, or any questions at all that you guys have? We've already gone over an hour. We want to be respectful of your time. So if you need to go, feel free to go. But if you want to stick around and ask us any questions, we'll still record through the last of the questions. Well, no questions. If you think of anything, please respond to my email, reach out to us. We will be making individual calls to you guys in the next few weeks to kind of just make sure that everything's going well in planning and preparation. And we'll also be reaching out through email if we need additional details from you. So just make sure to check your email and to respond back to us just as soon as you can, so we can make sure that we are as organized going into it as we can be. So anyways, thanks for joining tonight. Yes.
Actually, I have
let's hear
a question.
Okay.
What can you tell me what exactly is the shower situation going to be like?
What exactly?
Yeah. So first, there isn't a shower is an important part of it to note. Second, we will have some essentially a private space to shower. This would be bucket, sponge type shower situation. We definitely can heat up some water to make it a little bit warmer, but and where it is a little bit warmer where we'll be, is definitely there. I encourage people to bring wet wipes to, use throughout the day, particularly at night. And for those who are ambitious and want to go ahead and get in their kind of bucket shower situation, they'll have a space to do that. Little heads up, I typically don't shower while I'm in the community, but to each their own, right?
Thanks for the warning.
That's
George.
gross.
Not for me. I mean, it's,
It's just a way of life.
it's in the eye of the beholder, okay?
That's right. And the nose.
I have another question. Do you know, like, around the average temperature or what temps we can expect there?
Yeah, so we can expect high 80s to mid 90s. We'll send more spot on temperature kind of the week prior to the trip, but high 80s to low 90s, a little bit more humidity, and then about 70 at night. So really moderate temperature, which is different than some of the other areas we work in Peru. Drop really cold. This is going to be a little bit more subtropical.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Go for it.
Can you guys hear me? Oh, okay. How do we arrange our flights for those of us going on the tour? I understand that we're supposed to have specific flights, but those of us going from on the tour, how do we do that? Do we go with a particular person?
Yeah, so in the expedition resources on the online page that is on Choice Humanitarian, and I think in some of the emails, you'll see a contact info for someone at a place called CV Travel. Now, just to note, you don't have to book with her. She is familiar with everyone who is already, those who have booked with her, so she'll have what are some of the recommended guidelines. You're able to find a flight on your own. If you're able to find something cheaper, more affordable, definitely do it, but stick with the constraints or as close to them as you can that are specified. If you have any questions, email me to bounce your flight itinerary past so that we can make sure that it works best. You'll see that, we hope everyone gets into Cusco by 1 p.m. around the latest. And we hope that everyone gets into Piura by around 5 to 7 p.m. on that next Saturday. So with those time constraints spelled out, whichever flight you can work on, there's a lot of different options. It's obviously, for some folks, nicer to travel collectively as a group, but it's not necessary. We will have all your itineraries beforehand, and we will be able to meet up in a couple strategic areas in Lima, because assuming most people are on a similar flight path, you'll arrive to Lima very late at night. You'll almost sleep in the airport and take an early morning flight to Cusco, and then go from Cusco back to Lima over to Piura at the end of that tour.
Okay. Other question. Did you guys figure out if you're going to need people to do, I know in Nepal, you had people teaching business classes and other things like that. Are you guys going to use people for that again, or?
I'll let maybe Eric jump in and kind of talk a little bit about some of the workshops that are planned.
Sorry, what was your specific question that you
on business, whether the business training from Nepal will be a part of the training in.
Well, just the other education one. I know that you guys had
Yes.
a couple.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
So
yeah.
which,
So we will have the education. Is this Jeremy?
yeah.
Hey,
Hey,
Jeremy.
Eric.
Hey, Jeremy.
So yeah, we will have the education workshop, and that one, I believe you are over that one. So we'll coordinate with you after this call, so you can put a team together to make sure that that's executed. Likely, we'll use the curriculum that you guys developed in Nepal. So that will be the same material that we're based on, and we also have the community.
Okay.
So and just for everybody's informational purpose, you're welcome to move between workshops. So it's not like you have to say, I'm going to be married to one workshop or the other. You can do education for a few days if you want to try it out. And if you want to participate in that team, you're welcome to. And then do some community cleanup the next day, and do Days for Girls after that. We'll want everybody to experience different kind of workshops. This is your expedition. It's really how you wanted to experience Peru. So just let us know, give us heads up, and then we can accommodate that for sure.
Yeah. And
Okay.
one more thing, Jeremy. I think it's you and Rosie working together with Alicia for the education. So the three of you can chat and get that kind of buckled down.
Oh, okay. Question. I know in Nepal there wasn't really a language barrier. Is there going to be a big language barrier with these Peruvians as far as that goes?
They speak Spanish.
Mm-hmm. They do speak Spanish. We'll make sure that we've got translators, interpreters as part of every workshop or most interactions. Here at Choice, we work in 7 countries. 5 of those, 5 of those speak Spanish or even an indigenous dialect of that. And part of the experience is navigating how we cross those communication barriers. And without a doubt, groups find a groove and individuals find their way to achieve communication and understanding despite the language barrier.
Yeah. And we do have quite a few people who will be within our group who speak Spanish. And so for those who don't speak Spanish, we'll be able to be a good resource for you to help you with that language also.
Perfect.
Any other questions, guys?
If not, like we said, this is not the only window. And I really encourage questions in the Facebook group because then we all benefit from the answers. And so there's really no question that's off limits. And
is there any other customs that we need to be aware of that might be, I know in Nepal they had a bunch, but are there any for Peru that we need to be aware of, like things that might not be culturally acceptable, like boys touching girls or things like that?
No, the first night there during the orientation with our in-country team, we'll go over some of the generalities that might apply to this specific community. But no, overall, there's nothing that I would highlight at this stage that, is very different from many of the interactions you might expect, even meeting and greeting folks over here. Unlike some areas like Nepal or Kenya, there can be some fundamental differences that are really great to have on the radar. Central and South America, particularly Peru, there's a clash of modernity in the areas where we will be that it will make most community interactions pretty intuitive and appropriate.
Yeah.
Well, wonderful. I think with that, we will close this out and we'll post this recording and we'll send that out to everyone. And I look forward to meeting you all in person. It's always fun to connect at this level, but yeah, nothing beats meeting and greeting at the airport.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. All right.
Thanks, guys.